There wasn't a fight. No shouting. No doors slamming. No passive-aggressive huffs or tears barely held back. Just the kind of quiet that feels too still, like the calm before a storm that never comes. A soft Saturday morning in our suburb outside Austin, the sun easing in through the kitchen windows, catching dust motes in the air like confetti that had missed the party. The air smelled like coffee and something burning faintly from the toaster. Just another weekend, I thought. Just a few more hours before the noise of errands and chores began. I was at the counter, pouring orange juice into 2 short glasses, the kind with tiny race cars printed on them. Seth liked the red one. Lena didn't care as long as hers had more. They sat at the kitchen table behind me, heads bent over a shared coloring book, arguing softly about whether elephants should be blue or purple. The twins were 5, full of questions and chaos and life. I tried to freeze the moment in my head. Normal. Ordinary. Monica stood across from me by the coffee machine, calm and poised, her silk robe tied just so. I remember how still she was. She didn't fidget. She didn't tap her foot or hum a tune. Just stood there with both hands on the counter, waiting for her mug to fill. Her silence didn't register at first. We'd grown used to quiet in recent months, as if we'd both signed some unspoken agreement to stop trying. Words had become functional. Dinner's ready, your turn for carpool, don't forget the parent-teacher conference. And then, in the middle of that silence, came the sentence. "He's not my love," she said. Her voice was soft, almost like she was commenting on the weather. "He's just their father." She didn't look at me. She didn't raise her voice. She just spoke the words like they were a fact. Like it was a name I'd forgotten to wear properly. Just their father. Not her partner. Not her husband. Not the man she used to stay up all night whispering to, not the guy who memorized her coffee order or rubbed her back through both pregnancies. Just their father. It was the way she said it that got me. Not with anger or disappointment. There was no bite, no heat. Just a kind of blank finality. Like she had thought about it long enough that it no longer stung her to say it. The glass pitcher in my hand tilted for a second too long. A splash of orange juice hit the counter and dripped onto the floor. I set the pitcher down gently, like anything louder would make it worse. My fingers felt numb. My shoulders tight. The kids stopped coloring. Seth glanced at me, then at her, his little eyebrows pulling together. Lena just watched me. She's always been more sensitive. Her hands were still on the crayons, but she didn't move. I forced a smile. Not for Monica. For them. A twitch of the mouth, a well-practiced lie to smooth the edges. "Oops," I said and grabbed a dish towel. My voice cracked on the single syllable, and I hoped they didn't notice. But they did. Children always notice. Still, I wiped the counter clean, crouched to clean the floor, kissed both their heads as I passed, and left the room. I didn't look back at her. I couldn't. Not because I was angry, but because I suddenly saw everything with a clarity I hadn't before. She meant it. She had rehearsed it. You don't say something like that by accident. You don't pick a moment when your kids are there unless you've decided you don't care how it lands. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She just didn't care if she did. And that realization did more damage than if she'd thrown a plate or screamed a confession. She didn't look for a reaction. She wasn't baiting me. She had simply dropped it in the middle of the kitchen like an empty coffee cup. Something she was done with. I went upstairs and closed the door behind me, sat on the edge of our bed, and stared at the wall. There was a folded basket of laundry beside me. Her perfume lingered in the air. On the nightstand, her wedding ring sat in a dish she used for earrings and bobby pins. I hadn't even noticed it was missing. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't text my brother or my best friend. I just sat there, breathing. I tried to tell myself this wasn't new. That maybe I'd known for a while and just hadn't let it take shape in my head. But hearing her say it out loud, especially like that, made it impossible to ignore. I wasn't her love. Just the father of her children. I could feel something shift inside me. Not all at once, but steadily, like sand slipping in an hourglass. The part of me that tried, that cared, that kept hoping she'd turn toward me again, that part started to slip away. And strangely, it didn't feel like a death. It felt like a release. like something I hadn't realized I was clinging to had finally let go. I stayed upstairs for nearly an hour. She didn't come up. The kids stayed downstairs, giggling again eventually, the way children do because they're wired to keep going. I listened to them. To the sound of their feet hitting the floor, their laughter echoing through the vents. And I made a quiet decision. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't ask her to take it back, to clarify, to soften the blow. I believed her. Maybe for the first time in years, I finally believed something she said. And I would act accordingly. Not with revenge. Not with malice. But with the same cold clarity she'd shown me. I didn't know what came next yet, but I knew one thing for sure. She had drawn a line. And I would honor it. I didn't change anything overnight. That Sunday, I woke up early, made pancakes like I usually did, and packed the twins' lunches for Monday. Routine is a powerful disguise. It lets you move through a collapsing world without setting off alarms. Monica came downstairs around 9, still in her robe, scrolling on her phone. She poured coffee and didn't say good morning. I didn't either. We didn't fight. We didn't discuss what she'd said. That's how I knew she meant it. If it had been said in anger, maybe she would have tried to walk it back. But she didn't. She just continued on as if the words had never left her mouth. As if she hadn't cracked something wide open in front of our children. And I played along. Not out of fear. Not out of weakness. Out of clarity. I started withdrawing in ways she couldn't see at first. I still drove the kids to school, still helped with homework, still folded laundry and made sure the fridge had milk. But I stopped asking if she needed anything when I went out. I stopped checking in when she came home late from work, or when she didn't come home at all until the early morning. I used to make excuses in my head, work function, bad traffic, just needing time alone. But I didn't need to justify it anymore. Not to myself. On Monday, I found a co-working space downtown and rented a small desk. It cost more than it should have, but I didn't care. I needed a place that wasn't our house. Somewhere with blank walls and silence and people who didn't ask questions. I brought my laptop, some notebooks, and the business plan I had drafted years ago but buried under the weight of family obligations. It started slowly. Just a few hours a day, then more. I hadn't realized how much mental space I had spent just trying to hold our marriage together. Without that weight, I could breathe. I could think. My ideas sharpened. I felt more awake than I had in years. At home, I became exactly what she called me. Just their father. I read to the kids every night. Played board games. Took them on little weekend adventures to the park, the zoo, the bookstore downtown with the giant beanbag chairs. I cooked dinner for them and made them laugh and told them the same 3 bedtime stories in a rotation they never seemed to tire of. With Monica, I kept it simple. I didn't tell her when we were going out. I didn't ask where she'd been. I didn't update her when Seth lost another tooth or when Lena got a little scratch on her knee. She could ask if she cared. She rarely did. What surprised me was how easily she accepted the shift at first. Maybe she thought it would blow over. That I would eventually ask her what she meant, offer some emotional cushion so she could confess something and then be absolved. But I didn't. I gave her space. All of it. At dinner, I only addressed the kids. I listened when they spoke, really listened. Asked questions. Laughed at their stories. Monica would sometimes chime in with a comment or joke. I nodded politely, never rude, but I didn't engage. I didn't lock eyes with her, didn't invite her into the warmth I reserved for our children. The kids noticed. They gravitated toward me more and more. They sat closer to me on the couch, told me secrets in whispers. Monica tried to stay included, but her presence became something like background noise, part of the house, but not part of us. One Wednesday evening, she came home later than usual, hair still damp from a shower somewhere that wasn't here. She hovered in the doorway of the living room while I helped the twins build a blanket fort. I knew she wanted me to ask, "Where have you been? Who are you with?" I didn't ask. I didn't even look at her. She lingered for a moment, then walked away without a word. And still we didn't fight. That was the strangest part. No confrontation. No accusations. Just a steady drift apart like icebergs splitting. Cold, slow, silent. She stopped wearing her ring entirely. I never mentioned it. She started buying new clothes, started keeping her phone face down on the counter. I didn't snoop. I didn't need to. I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't even trying to understand her anymore. That part of me was gone. What replaced it was something sharper, quieter. A new kind of resolve. Not bitterness, but distance. Intentional and complete. I didn't owe her the version of me she had casually erased in front of our children. I owed them consistency. Stability. She must have noticed. Sometimes she'd pause in the hallway, staring at me like she was trying to place a face she once knew. But she never said anything. Neither did I. And then came Saturday. I woke up early, dressed the kids quietly, and took them bowling without telling her. It wasn't out of spite. It just didn't occur to me that I needed to check in with someone who had already checked out. Lena picked pink shoes. Seth picked the heaviest ball he could manage. We laughed the entire time. She texted me around 10. Just one word, "Where?" I replied, "Bowling." Nothing else. When we got back, she was in the kitchen, arms crossed, waiting. "You could have told me," she said. Her tone had an edge now. But I just helped the kids out of their jackets and walked past her without a reply. Later, she tried again. Tried to joke with me about how Seth bowled better than she ever had. I smiled at my son. Ruffled his hair. Didn't even glance at her. That's when something shifted, not in me, but in her. And for the first time I saw it. She was starting to feel what I had lived through for years, being invisible in your own home. She didn't say anything for 2 days. I think she was waiting for me to come to her, to explain myself, to apologize for the quiet rebellion she didn't quite understand yet. But I didn't. I tucked the kids in at night with their favorite lullabies. I made pancakes shaped like animals on Sunday morning. I packed their backpacks for school, labeled their lunch containers with little sticky notes that said, "You're awesome," and "Shine today," in silly marker colors. I remembered everything. But I didn't remember her. Not in the ways she used to expect. She started trying again. Not the way I had always hoped. Those deep conversations, the random acts of affection we used to share in our early years. These new attempts were hollow, almost performative. She'd linger near me, ask questions about my work. She complimented my haircut, even though I hadn't changed it in months. One night, she sat beside me on the couch while I was reading and casually placed her hand near mine, just close enough that it might be mistaken for a reach. I didn't move away. But I didn't reach back either. She hovered there, unmoving, until eventually she got up and left the room. No words. No sigh. Just quiet footsteps on hardwood floors. I think she thought distance would wake something in me. That my silence was a form of protest I couldn't keep up forever. But what she didn't know was that I was already gone. Not physically. But everything that used to reach toward her had retracted, curled back inward like a wounded animal too tired to run. The twins began asking more questions. "Why don't you and Mommy sit together? Why doesn't Mommy come to the zoo with us anymore?" I answered gently, never with blame. "We're just making sure everyone gets the love and attention they need," I'd say. It was true in a way. I gave them all of me. And Monica? I gave her space, just like she had given me for years, only now she could feel it. She started coming home earlier. Tried cooking dinner one night and asked if I wanted to help. I said I had work to finish. She nodded, but her hand tightened on the spatula. I noticed that and nothing else. By the end of that week, she was clearly unraveling. Her energy was scattered, no longer cold and composed like it had been. I saw her glance at my phone more often, as if waiting for it to light up with a message she might recognize. But I didn't get messages from anyone she feared. No secret affair. No sudden romance. Just client emails, project updates, and notes from the twins' school. She couldn't understand why I had changed without another woman waiting in the wings. But it wasn't about anyone else. It was about finally choosing myself and my children over the constant ache of trying to be seen by someone who had long since stopped looking. She brought up old memories over dinner one night. Talked about a trip we took to Colorado before the twins were born. How we got snowed in and drank wine from paper cups. She smiled while telling it, as if the story might wrap itself around my heart and pull me back. I laughed along. Not at the memory, but at the effort. It was transparent now. Too late. That Saturday, I took the kids to the Science Museum. Monica wasn't invited, and I didn't ask if she had plans. When we got back, she was sitting on the front steps, arms around her knees, waiting like someone who didn't know what else to do. She stood as we approached and reached out to hug Lena, but Lena ran to me first. Monica stood there with her arms half raised, unsure of what to do next. She followed us inside and asked if we could talk. I told her later. She didn't ask when later was. She knew the answer. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the dining table and wrote everything out. A plan. A structure. A schedule. I made it all simple, clear. Something even a court couldn't argue with. Then I printed 2 copies and placed one in her spot at the table. The next morning she found it. I watched her read the paper. Her fingers trembled. She didn't look up. She read it once. Then again. The words were plain. I would be moving out in 2 weeks. I had found a small rental 10 minutes away, near the twins' school. I would pick them up every morning, bring them back every evening. Weekends would rotate. Every plan had their names at the center, highlighted in yellow. She didn't say a word. Just folded the paper and left the room. That evening, I called a family meeting. We sat in the living room, just the 4 of us. I kept it calm. Gentle. I explained that I was going to live in a different house soon, but I'd still see them every day. That nothing would change between us, except where I slept at night. I didn't look at Monica while I spoke. I looked at Seth and Lena, and made sure they knew I meant every word. They didn't cry. They asked if their beds would be the same. I promised they would. They asked if we could still have pancakes on Sundays. I promised we could. They asked if Mommy would be okay. I paused. Then said, she'll be just fine. Monica didn't speak. She didn't even try. But the next day, the school called. There was a request to transfer the children. Not just to another class. To another district. 4 hours away. No warning. No discussion. Just a quiet attempt to move them out of my reach. I responded that same day. My petition included everything: dates, patterns, her detachment, her words in front of the children. I had documented it all. I didn't smear her. I didn't attack her. I showed the truth. The court granted me primary custody during the week. She got weekends. She didn't see it coming, but she should have. The day after the court ruling, the house felt different. Not because anything had physically changed, but because something invisible had shifted, like the foundation had finally admitted it had cracked. I walked through the rooms with a different kind of awareness, noticing the absence of something I used to carry without thinking. Her approval. Her gaze. The hunger for her attention that used to hum quietly under everything I did. It was gone now. The kids adjusted quickly. Children adapt to new rhythms better than we give them credit for. Monday through Friday, they were with me. On Saturdays, I packed their overnight bags. Monica would stand in the doorway, trying not to look too eager or too defeated. I never lingered. The twins always came back a little quieter, a little unsure, as if they were stepping off a shaky boat onto steady ground. They never said anything bad about their time with her, but I could see it in the way they clung to me those first few hours back. The first month passed in quiet motion. I worked. I parented. I started jogging again, early in the mornings before the sun climbed too high. I wasn't trying to transform, but I was changing anyway. Reclaiming space I hadn't realized I'd given up. Monica didn't reach out much. A few logistical texts. A couple of photos of the kids on her weekends, always with stiff smiles and 2 clean backgrounds. But there were no long messages. No apologies. No confessions. Until one Friday evening. She called instead of texting. I almost didn't answer. But the kids were still brushing their teeth, and I was in the middle of folding their pajamas. I pressed the green button and said nothing. I was thinking, she said, like it was a casual opener and not the first time we'd spoken in weeks. Maybe we could talk. Just us. I paused. About? She hesitated. I could hear background noise. A television, maybe, or music playing low. I don't know. Everything. I don't think there's anything left to talk about, I said. You don't even want to try? Her voice tightened. I kept my tone level. You made it clear I wasn't your love. Just their father. I'm doing that part now. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. You said it in front of them. I was frustrated. No, I cut in. You were composed. You rehearsed it. You chose the moment. Don't rewrite it now. She was quiet for a long beat. You're different now, she said eventually. I know. The next day, she showed up early for drop-off. She brought muffins. Said it was a peace offering. The twins took them gladly. I thanked her without emotion. She stood there like she was waiting for more. I closed the door behind her. Over the next couple of weeks, her efforts became more obvious. She showed up to school functions she used to skip. Asked if I wanted to split weekends instead of alternating them. Offered to come by with dinner one night when she knew I was working late. I said no to everything, gently but firmly. It wasn't about punishment. It was about boundaries. For the first time, I was living by mine. And still, she kept trying. Little things. A text with a joke only I would understand. A comment on an old photo memory. An invitation to lunch, just to catch up. It was strange, seeing her reach now, after so many years of watching her pull away. And part of me wondered, was it regret? Or just fear of being replaced? Then came the letter. She left it in the mailbox. A white envelope with my name in handwriting I hadn't seen in a long time, not on birthday cards, not on the notes she used to leave by the coffee machine. I stood in the kitchen holding it, debating whether to read it at all. Eventually I did. It was 4 pages. No apologies, not really. Just reflections. Memories she had been holding onto. Things she missed. She wrote that she hadn't realized how much space I filled until it was gone. That she didn't expect the house to feel this hollow. That the silence she used to crave now haunted her. She ended it with a question. Is there a version of us that still exists? I didn't respond. Instead, I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer in my desk, and went to pick up the kids. That night, I watched them brush their teeth, both of them humming songs between foam and giggles. I helped Seth find his favorite pajama pants and tucked Lena's stuffed dog under her arm. I read them a book about stars and galaxies, and when they were finally asleep, I stood in the hallway looking at their closed doors. There was no version of us I wanted to return to, but I was finally beginning to see the version of me that had been buried inside that long, slow unraveling. And I wasn't going back. Not for love. Not for memory. Not for her. It's been almost a year now. A year since the morning she stripped everything down to a sentence in front of our children. A year since I stood in the kitchen, hands trembling around a pitcher of orange juice, and realized I was no longer anyone's husband, just someone's father. You'd think time would dull the memory. It hasn't, but it has clarified it. I don't remember the exact color of her robe, or what the weather was like outside that morning. I don't remember if the kids ever finished their coloring pages. But I remember her voice. Not the words exactly, but the tone. The certainty. And most of all, the absence of warmth. That's what stayed with me. And now, as I stand at the edge of a soccer field on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand, watching Seth chase a ball with wild focus while Lena does cartwheels on the sideline, I realize something else has taken its place, something stronger. It didn't arrive all at once. It came in quiet pieces. Like when Seth had a nightmare and climbed into my bed without a word, curling into my chest like he used to when he was little. Or when Lena handed me a drawing of the 3 of us, me in the middle, them on each side, holding my hands, and said, "This is our team." It came the first time I made dinner and the house felt warm, not heavy. The first time the kids fell asleep without asking where Monica was. The first time I spent a Sunday morning drinking coffee on the porch without waiting for anyone to join me. It came when I stopped asking why. Monica still sees them on weekends. The transition is smooth now. We've stopped pretending to talk. We exchange brief texts. We no longer argue. There's no fire left to fuel. Occasionally, she'll linger a little longer than necessary at pickup, maybe searching my face for something familiar. But it's not there anymore. Whatever thread tethered me to her emotionally, it snapped quietly, cleanly. A few weeks ago, Lena told me Monica had asked her if I was seeing someone. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it said more about Monica than me. I don't need someone to replace her. That was never the point. I needed to rebuild the parts of myself she forgot to see. And I did. I joined a local writers group. Something I never made time for before. I've taken the kids camping twice, just the three of us, no distractions, just trees, stars, and burnt marshmallows. I'm more present than I've ever been, and not just in the physical sense. My mind is here. My heart is here. And every day, I watch these two little people become stronger, kinder, funnier. They make sense of the world in ways I never could have imagined. Sometimes I still see shadows of the life I used to have. A couple walking past me in the park. A wedding ring glinting in sunlight. A familiar perfume in the grocery store aisle. But those moments don't hurt anymore. They just remind me of who I was, and how far I've come. Monica tried to write a new chapter between us. Not by saying it outright, but through her actions. The invitations. The memories. The letter. I think she believed that once the chaos settled, I would come back to her. That the father would eventually want to become the husband again. But the truth is, the man who left that kitchen a year ago is gone. What stands in his place is someone quieter, stronger, focused. Someone who understands that love, when withheld long enough, stops waiting at the door. The kids ask about love sometimes. They've seen other parents hold hands. They've started to notice things. Do you love mommy? Seth asked me once, around bedtime. I paused before answering. I love that she gave me you, I said. And I'll always be thankful for that. It was the truth. Lena asked if I would ever get married again. I told her maybe. One day. If it feels right. She nodded like it made perfect sense, then asked if we could have pancakes on her birthday either way. That's what matters to them. Consistency. Comfort. My presence. Monica may have reduced me to just their father. But that's not an insult anymore. It's an honor. Because being just their father means I show up. It means I'm here. It means I get to be the safe place, the steady hand, the quiet strength. And in a world that often teaches men to disappear emotionally or stay only half there, I've learned how to be whole, for them and for myself. So no, I wasn't her love. But I am theirs. And that's more than I ever needed to be.